We're calling this meeting to order. It's our special council meeting, Thursday, December 26, 2024. Hopefully, everybody had a very Merry Christmas. And we'll take the roll call. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Nico Reynoso.
Present.
Councilman Rafael Pinedo.
Present.
Councilwoman Dina Cabral.
Present.
Vice Mayor Maureen Porras. Mayor Christy Fraga.
Present.
Mayor have quorum.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Mayor Porras. Okay, agenda order of business. I don't believe we should have any additions or deletions. Okay, being none, we'll move into public comments. I'll now open the public comments portion of this meeting. If you would like to address this council, please approach the podium. You have 3 minutes to speak in a respectful manner. We have comment cards. I will go ahead and take the first comment card that we have, which is Mr. Richard Gladstad.
Good morning, everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. I've been looking into my crystal ball lately to try to figure out what's going to happen today. And I think it's correct. I think it's been giving me the right information. The crystal ball's kind of been telling me that just to be careful today, that make sure everybody has their eyes open today. This is like the equivalent of a Pearl Harbor attack on the United States on December 7th, 1941. This is something that the city council is trying to sneak by people because it's the day after Christmas and they think nobody's watching. But people, yes, are watching, and people that are really watching are really people. They're just up there. God's watching. He sees everything you do. And today, you're going to try to slam dunk through Donald Trump's Endeavor project, approve it. That's what the crystal ball's been telling me. Because it's good for you politically and socially and also economically. If you do what the big boy tells you, it can only bring you fame and riches later. Look at Marco Rubio. That's the guy that hated Trump, and all of a sudden, he brown-nosed his way to the top. Another thing you're going to do today that the crystal ball told me is you're going to hire a crony, somebody you already know, a recycled person that's loyal to you, that's brown-nosed their way into your hearts so they can be your puppet and they can do what you want, even though they're not the most qualified person, obviously. That's what you call Mickey Beam politics, Mickey Beam. Everything here, unfortunately, and in Dade County now, it's Mickey Beam quality. It's not the best quality, but you get by with Mickey Beam. And what you've done here, without realizing, is you've not only betrayed me, the people of the city of Doral, but you've betrayed your country, if this really is your country. Some people live here and they say, mi país. But they don't mean the United States. What they mean is their home countries. They could give a rat's ass about democracy and this country.
Richard.
In 2 seconds, they'd give up their integrity for $5, $10, $20, whatever it takes, just to get ahead economically, socially, or politically. It's really pathetic. It's really pathetic. You stand up here, pledge allegiance to the flag. What kind of BS is that? The crystal ball never lies.
Richard, thank you for your comments. Please, let's be more respectful next time. Otherwise, we will not be taking comments, especially with expletives. Thank you. Any other comments at this time? Any other comments? Okay. Public comments is now closed. Let the record reflect no one else has chosen to speak at this time. And we'll move into the discussion item. So before we move into the first discussion item, I will ask for a couple of ground rules as we move forward in the interview process. There are, I think, 4 candidates here. I believe there may be one virtually, correct? Are 4 here? All 4 are here. Okay. So we're gonna ask that if you please go outside while one of the candidates is being interviewed out of respect. Obviously, this is an open public meeting, so we cannot require you to go outside, but if you are a candidate, we would ask out of respect for the other candidates that you please step out while one is being interviewed. We're gonna go in the following order. We will start with Mr. Ricardo Mendez, then we will do Ms. Seda Sardinas, Michael Sibilia, and Tariq Brahamini. I think I said that right. So if you would please step out, we would very kindly appreciate it. All right, and then as that takes place, what I would ask from the council is that you have your 3 questions ready. Remember, as discussed previously by the committee, it is recommended that the same question be asked to each candidate. We'll go ahead and start with Councilwoman Cabral, then we'll go to Councilwoman Reynoso, then we'll do Vice Mayor Porras, and then Councilman Pinedo, and then I will go last. All right? Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Discussion item 4A, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Doral, Florida, approving the selection of blank as city manager pursuant to Article 392 of the city's charter, further authorizing the city manager and city attorney to negotiate and execute an employment agreement with blank, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, we'll go ahead and take Mr. Ricardo Mendez. You here, sir? Please approach the podium. You'll be given 2 minutes to do opening remarks and then 2 minutes to close, and in between we'll have questions. Okay? Madam Clerk, can we have a clock for 2 minutes? All right, Mr. Mendez, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and council members. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. Happy holidays. Would you like me to do? Just
opening remarks, yeah?
opening remarks. I'm very excited to be here. I am a professional city manager. I have over 30 years of professional experience in municipal, county, and civil engineering. And I'm looking forward to answering your questions and hopefully help you add significant value to your operations and make a great contribution to the team, the city, and of course, the residents.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez. Okay, Councilwoman Cabral, would you like to please open with your questions?
I just have 2 questions. Should I ask them one after the other, or just ask one and wait until he answers? How are we?
Yes, so go ahead and ask your question. The candidate will respond, and then you'll be able to ask your next question. We are doing 3 questions per council member.
We just have 2. So the first one, and thank you so much for being here, taking your time. Considering the recent turnover in our city manager position, what strategies would you implement to ensure leadership, stability, and improvement staff morale within our city administration?
Will you say the last part?
To improve staff morale within our city administration.
Okay. Let me answer with an experience that I had with the city of Harrisburg, the capital of Pennsylvania. Well, there were about 198 of us, and I was fortunate enough to be selected the top candidate. During that time, the city was in the throes of a new administration and implementing a financial recovery plan. The city was also under receivership based on a legislation that the Commonwealth had that enabled the governor to step in since vital and necessary services were at stake at some point. They had to do 3 things: appoint a receiver, which they did, former retired U.S. Force General, my boss, chief operating officer, that was me, and implement a financial recovery plan that had over 130 management improvement, revenue enhancement, cost containment and reduction across the city. And of course, a lot of people pulling in different directions. I came in and I listened, I gathered the facts, and I made an assessment. And then we got together with the council, the mayor, which had an interesting relationship. And they asked me, Mr. Ben, some of them were against the implementation of the financial recovery plan. I said, listen, this is the only thing we have. The Commonwealth has spent significant amount of financial resources. It's a great tool. I believe the city is lucky to have it. If anybody has anything else, I'll be more than happy to study it. But I've been studying it for over a week, and I find nothing but good in these 130 initiatives. I had met with the mayor first, then met with each and every one of the council members. I tried to identify common ground so where we could compromise and move forward and start the recovery process. Bottom line, the result was that during that meeting, I was approved by the city commission. I believe it was like 4-7, and we went to work. And when they handed the city to me, it was on track to become the second largest municipal bankruptcy in the United States, next to Detroit. When I left, we had completed over 50% of the financial recovery plan initiatives. We had resolved all of the grievances with the FOP, the International Firefighters Association, and AFME, the American Federation of State, Municipal, and County Employees, and, excuse me, the Fraternal Order of Police, as I mentioned. Among other things, the general asked me that there were some things that were missing from the financial recovery plan. He wanted me to go and study the departments, develop strategic plans, and otherwise he wouldn't let me go. So I went back to work with the department directors, the bureau chiefs. We developed strategic management plans for each and every one of the departments. We won the GFOA Budget Award for Excellence, and amazingly, we completed 4 CAFRs and 3 audits within 16 months. It was like record-breaking. Long story short, the city emerged out of receivership in only 3 years compared to other cities in Pennsylvania that had been under receivership for about 20 years. And I'm very proud to say that I got an outstanding performance evaluation from the mayor and the general for my first year as a city administrator. So I try to bring everybody together through compromise, through open communications, through gathering the facts and trying to be a good entity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mendez.
All right.
So my second question will be, in faced with a disagreement between council members on policies direction, how would you navigate those conflicts while maintaining neutrality and advancing the best interests of our city?
Well, you mentioned the key word, okay, neutrality. As a professional city manager, I believe that I was one of the first who the ICMA credentialing board in Washington back in after I left Harrisburg. They notified me that I fulfilled the requirement to become a credential manager. One of the things that they teach us is that there are no favorites. We just exercise professional due diligence for you. We gather the facts and we give you our best. And by that I mean we not only study the problem, but we to the best of our knowledge and abilities and professional due diligence, we will present the optimum alternative with the utmost respect and ethical standards. And that's how I would conduct myself among the honorable council members and the mayors. And just like I have done, I have worked with probably over 10 mayors now throughout my careers.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez.
Very well.
I just have 2 questions.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Reynoso.
Through the mayor, I have a question. Weren't we supposed to have a 2-minute timer for answering each question?
I was not implementing a timer. Let's try and keep the question,
Okay.
the answers a little more concise so that if they
Right.
felt the liberty to have to elaborate more, we could, but let's try and keep it a little bit shorter. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mendez, thank you so much for taking your time
Right.
and coming to Doral to interview with us. My first question, from what I understand, none of the applicants currently reside in the city of Doral. How do you plan to connect with our community, immerse yourself in our culture, and understand the needs and expectations of our residents?
That's an excellent question, Councilwoman Reynoso. I am very happy to share that during my tenure with Miami-Dade County, which I started in 1993, where I went through the ranks, I was appointed to several important committees, such as the Black Committee, the Development of Impact Committee, and the Development of Regional Impact Committee. The great city of Doral had not incorporated at that time. And I was selected by the then county manager, assistant county manager, my former boss, when the county went into the community council form of government to represent. I was assigned to the Doral to represent the county at the Doral Community Council, which I did. Sometimes we got home at 1 in the morning. I used to tour the city with the community council members. I remember that, if I recall correctly, it was Mr. Pepe Cancio Sr. And I remember once my boss, the assistant county manager, asked me to attend another community council. And then they wrote a letter from the Doral to my boss so that he could reassign me. And I have all of that information available upon request. So before the city incorporated, I toured the city many times. I have worked with the community council members. I also served as a finance director for the city of Sweetwater for approximately 3 years. So I am acquainted, professionally acquainted, also with all of the land development. For instance, back then, our largest commercial and industrial land development project was the Beacon Trade Port, which is now the Dolphin Mall. That was one of my projects. I led the team of administrators and engineers that would review the land development applications. So I had to walk the entire 107th Avenue looking for right-of-ways, looking for ways so that we could approve the project and we could come together with the private sector and allow the development without shortchanging the county infrastructure.
Thank you. My second question, Mr. Mendez.
Yes, ma'am.
You bring valuable experience from the cities you've worked in. How do you intend to apply that knowledge to serve Doral effectively and help make it the leading city in Miami-Dade County?
Excellent question. First and foremost, the system that I have developed throughout my experience. I started working in government in 1993, okay? Is based on priorities. There are priorities, and then there are priorities that are critical. Okay? One of the things that I would do that I learned, I study the CAFR. I sit down with the auditors. I find out, are there any findings? Are there any recurring findings? Why haven't they been cured? What do we need to do to address them effectively and efficiently? And what are the critical priorities that the city has? And based on that assessment, put together a work plan in order to address those physical priorities that I may identify that are not being addressed, and come before you and give you a presentation, in council and individually as well, so that I can answer each and every one of your questions. So those would be some of the very first things that I would do in my first 100 years. Identify the critical priorities that the city has and what's ahead. Not only what are we having to deal with now, but what's ahead.
Thank you. So my last question does have to do with the 100 days, and here it is.
Yes.
What are your priorities and plan for your first 100 days as city manager of Doral?
Among them, because there are several priorities, is to get to know the staff, to get to know each and every one of you, to get to know your constituents, to get to know their needs, their priorities, so that I can help you in the very best way. By the same token, to get to know the staff, as I said, including public safety, the police officer, the fire chief. I used to walk the most challenging neighborhoods with the police chief. I used to have dinner with the fire chiefs and the union president at night at the fire stations. So one of my first priorities will be to get acquainted, to exercise professional due diligence, to get to know the greatest asset that you have here, which is the people. And of course, at the same talking, by the same talking, I'll be assessing the skill set. Okay, what are our strengths, our opportunities, our threats, and our areas of improvements?
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Okay, Vice Mayor Porras.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Mr. Mendez. You've interviewed with us before, right?
I really want.
Right, during
Yeah.
the last round? Okay, yeah. I actually selected your resume to move forward. So you have a very impressive resume and background. I didn't realize it was you, but welcome again. I just have three very quick questions. The first one you may have already answered in between all the other answers, but if you can just, summarize it. And that is, why should we select you to be our next city manager?
Well, first, I believe there are multiple reasons, and I don't want to sound selfish. I am honored to be here, and the city deserves the best. I'm just one candidate. But I believe that I can add a great deal of value and make a significant contribution in many areas. As a professional engineer, I can make sure that the city's infrastructure is properly planned, properly designed, and properly built. As a professional city manager, I can help you develop, enhance, and maintain a professional management operation in every department. Okay? I can help you cure all the audit findings as a certified government financial manager, like I did with the city of Harrisburg, or like I did with the city of Sweetwater, which was about to be placed under the state oversight board, which is the equivalent of a receivership, when they brought me, because they had removed the mayor for some reason I didn't know. The state attorney's office, called me with an interim measure. They came in, gave me a few weeks. Long story short, the city is thriving nowadays. I had to watch every cent every day so that we could provide vital and necessary services. Okay? So, as a professional engineer, as a professional manager, I believe that, and also, I don't know if I mentioned, I serve in the capacity of Public Works Director, Program Management Director, where I led the design and construction of a 5-year, $2 billion capital improvement program with over 100 projects. And we earned praises from the Palm Beach Post and the board for delivering all of those projects on time for the first time in a few years, and I have all of that information upon request. I also serve in the capacity of Director of Administration, directly overseeing risk management, finance, operations, and operations and revenue, and human resources. And excuse me. Lastly, I served as the finance director here. So I've been a director. I completed an entire protocol in order to become a professional city manager. I didn't take any shortcuts. And by the way, all of those positions that you saw on my resume, they were granted based on merit.
Thank you. And just very briefly, how will you keep the elected officials informed?
Well, first, what I did in Harrisburg, if I can answer with an example, I sit down with each and every one of you, and I try to identify, based on my experience, most of you are different. How would you prefer to be, what is your preferred method of communication? Is it via email, phone, text? But there is one thing, I am always available 24/7. My career is my life. Just like I used to tell my department directors, including the police chief and the fire chief, I would be available to you 24/7, and we will sit down and I will do my very best to forge an awesome professional relationship, a lifetime relationship. That's how I would try
you.
to find out what is the best way to communicate with you.
Thank you. And just lastly, what is your management style? And very briefly.
Very briefly, okay, I would say, thank you. I would say participatory, number one. Okay, I believe in consensus approach because we all have different training, different knowledge, different experience. And in the cities I worked, including the county, there's so many good people and they have different knowledges. And we get challenged with in multiple areas. And we need the team, okay, contributing in different areas where they have skills, where they have experience, where they have their gifts. So participatory, that's why I foster open communications, an open door. Number two, I would like to say progressive. As a professional engineer, I go through the latest civil 3D engineering design versions on how they design the water, the sewer, the drainage, the roadways, the buildings. I believe that information technology is a great tool, but we gotta know how to implement it so that we don't break the bank, and we can have that conversation at another level. So being progressive, using the latest information technology, professional development, also objective. I want to answer your question effectively. Objective means that I like to exercise professional due diligence to gather the facts and understand the problem so that I avoid giving you the right solution to the wrong problem. And that also includes listening. And so those are 3 dimensions. And the last one, to make it short, I would say fair, very fair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mendez.
All right.
For your time as well. Thank you.
With resources, with promotions, with appointments, with everything.
Thank you, Mr.
In the city of Miami Beach, I put the pie in the middle of the table.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez.
Okay.
Councilman Pinedo, your questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Mr. Mendez.
Morning.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
What do you see as the biggest challenges for the city of Doral in the coming years?
That's a great question. The- there are some. You know, the external environment is forever changing. Okay. We're going. Excuse me. One of the areas in information technology, artificial intelligence. Okay, our industry sectors and business are changing. Okay. And we need to have the professional development. We need to have, we can only be as good as the people we have in our team. So hiring that team, developing that team, and retaining that team that is going to help us take the city to the next step, okay, is one of those challenges. Among others, resources are scarce. How are we going to, entice these people and retain these people if we only have so many limited resources? So we need to do our very best to foster a congenial work environment. It's just like I used to tell the staff, we spend more time with each other than we do with our own loved ones. I used to leave at 5 o'clock when I was the assistant city administrator in West Palm, and came back home at 11, at 12 sometime at night. So a congenial work environment, something that brings self-actualization to the staff through professional developments. We need to exercise innovation, and we can do it. The other area is the infrastructure, which has become the Achilles heel of the municipalities. The city of Harrisburg almost filed for bankruptcy because they neglected the maintenance, the modernization, expansion, and new construction of the amazing water system, including the water and the wastewater treatment plant. Well, we have transportation infrastructure, we have water, sewer, drainage, all of that infrastructure that we have to take. Excuse me. We need to exercise foresight when we're planning and developing these capital improvement programs with the right team, of course, so that we can meet the level of service that are required given our population growth, which is ever increasing. And lastly, I would say public safety. We need to make sure that we maintain a professional public safety operation. and that includes emergency management because we are in a climate challenge area. I was at the emergency. I worked as the emergency manager for Miami-Dade County. So there are several. I don't want to elaborate anymore.
Thank you.
But the people, the infrastructure, and also managing our financial resources. After working in the city of Harrisburg and in the city of Sweetwater, where I had to watch every single day, every cent, so that we could meet and continue to provide vital and necessary services, I learned a big lesson. So we need to exercise wisdom, manage the resources, exercise stewardship, and manage those resources with foresight, effectively and efficiently. Not just for what's going on now, but for what's ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez.
Excuse my voice.
No, don't worry about it. And I'm going to ask you,
Right.
for me, will be the last question. Why should we select you to be our next city manager?
Well,
was
I
yours?
think that
Sorry, I missed that one. Let's keep going.
when you read your job description and you read my profile, I believe that my professional, educational, experience, and achievement profile is like a perfect match.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. That's fine. I missed that one.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mr. Mendez. So I'll go ahead and close, and then I'm going to give you 2 minutes, just any final remarks. Mine is very simple, based on, I'm looking at resumes, and looking at your resume, currently you're not employed.
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
So one of the things that strikes me is the extensive work experience, however, very short time periods. So can you just explain to me or elaborate a little bit on, for example, your previous employment with West Palm Beach was for 1 year.
Right.
Then previous to that, less than 2 years at the city of Sweetwater. The city of Harrisburg, which you speak a lot about, was 1 year.
Right.
Then before that, was the Seminole tribe was less than a year as well.
Yes.
Before that, city of Miami Beach, about 3 years.
Correct.
So there's a little bit of a trend there.
Let's start with the first one. The first one that you mentioned. Or if you want, we can start with the city of Harrisburg. Thanks to a great deal of work, okay, as I mentioned, we made such an early progress, and that was one of the reasons why the general gave me an outstanding performance evaluation, that we completed over 50% of the financial recovery plan ahead of time in like 13 months. A new administration came in. I said that the city was under receivership. That was a strong mayor form of government. Bankruptcy was not the talk of the town. We had turned the situation around thanks to a great deal of teamwork, which I led. So when a new mayor was elected, okay, we decided, to let the new mayor become the strong mayor, become the city manager, like the charter says. Not only did I leave, but all the department directors left, including the receiver as well. So that was and I believe I provided the letter from the general, it's in there, and also the letter from the governor's office praising my work, at least acknowledging, and I am very appreciative that they did that. Then with the Seminole tribe of Florida, okay, they had Yes, I was the first Hispanic chief there, administrative. And I came in, the tribe had purchased 8 water treatment plant, 4 water, 4 wastewater. And I start seeing a lot of payments, millions of dollars. So purchasing comes up to my office and says, Mr. Mendez, once you approve it. So I said, well, it turned out that designing a water treatment plant and a wastewater treatment plant was my thesis here at Florida International with Dr. Villare. I want to go to the plants. I want to walk the plants, each and every one of them. Unfortunately, none of the plants were completed. The equipment had not been delivered. Some of the reactors were down, and the effluent, okay, was totally, what can I say? The effluent was not meeting the standards per the federal EPA. I made a presentation very respectfully to the tribal council. And I say, here's what I found, because I also brought a professional team with me. And here's, what the problems are. Here's what we propose. Here are the solutions. Within 3 months, if you give me all of the support and all of the backup, and we haven't cured these problems, then I don't deserve to be here. But if within 3 months, okay, I do all of my professional due diligence, and for some forces that are above and beyond, I cannot accomplish this, then with all due respect, I don't want to be here. I am the only registered professional engineer. There has never been a claim on my license. And I studied for years to become a registered professional engineer. So I said, okay, unfortunately, we couldn't get it, and I came back. The first time they didn't accept my resignation. The second time I came, I said, listen, it's better that we part ways. But of course, you never heard me saying anything, never heard me making any comments. In the utmost professional fashion, we parted ways. Okay? 6 months later, unfortunately, it is on the paper. I think the FBI, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the IRS came in and they removed the vice chairman. I believe that some of them went to jail. Thank goodness, I was out of there months before. And they asked, why didn't you do what this guy was telling you to do?
Thank you very much.
Okay. No, but the others, isn't there another? You said
Yeah, I think it's
the city of Sweetwater,
Yeah.
when they removed the mayor. I just came back from Harrisburg, as a city manager. That was the highlight of my career at that time. I got a call from the law enforcement, I believe the FBI. We met at Los Ranchos, and they took me from the restaurant to the city. I said, let me see. Let me get into the trenches. Because by charter, they needed to deliver the budget, and they hadn't worked on the budget. So I came in, and I, had a heart-to-heart with everyone in the finance department. Wonderful people, wonderful. We went to work. We delivered a budget, okay? We met the deadline. It wasn't a Cadillac with everything, but it was a budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez.
And then it was too long, and I had already been director of 3 departments and a city manager. It was time for me to move on, and I believe it was about 3 years, so it turned a little too long.
Thank you very much. Just very quick closing remark.
Closing remark. I believe that in regards to his last, to Councilman Pineiro question, I was going to add something else, but I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and wish you and the city the best of luck. And if you could answer one question, that would be great. Just to, as I get to know the lay of the land here. What would you say will be the first one or two priorities for the new manager?
Well, right now, we're not gonna go into questions from us, just
Fro-
because we do
oh, okay.
have three other candidates that are waiting, and I think each of us, we have a strategic planning session where that is discussed at length, and we want to be prepared for that, which hopefully we'll be doing in February or March, which is why it's so important that we kick the ground running in January with a new manager, since our manager resigned effective December 31st. But those are discussions we'll have with the manager through our strategic planning session, which we do every year. So, but thank you very much for your time and for being here today. And we are going to make a decision today.
You're very welcome. Thanks to each and every one of you. Happy holidays. And I have nothing farther.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Okay.
Mendez. Very nice.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. We'll give Mr. Mendez a moment to step out. You can take your water if you like. It's regular water. We just don't use plastic in the city of Doral anymore. You're welcome. All right. If someone could please get Ms. Zeta Sardinas, she's next on our list. Ms. Sardinas, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. So just very quickly, we're going to allow you 2 minutes to do your opening remarks, and then we will have questions from each council member. Each council member is allowed to ask 3 questions, and we are asking the same question to all candidates, and then you'll have 2 minutes for closing remarks. We're going to go ahead and start with Councilman Cabral whenever you're ready. However, we'll give you 2 minutes for your opening statement. Sorry.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, charter officials, and Mr. Deputy City Manager. My name is Zeta Sardinas, and I'm deeply honored to be considered for the position of City Manager. With over 30 years of experience in public and private administration, with nearly 11 dedicated to municipal government, I have a proven track record of strategic leadership that aligns with the priorities of elected officials, city administrators, and most importantly, delivers results for the communities we serve. In my current role as asset manager for the city of Coral Gables, I've served on the city's executive management team, reporting directly to the city manager. I've exercised direct authority across departments to oversee the city's most iconic and historic properties, representing over $2 billion in asset value and generating millions in recurring revenue for the city. I've also managed the city's strategic partnerships with private, nonprofit, and county entities, undertaking complex negotiations, budgeting, crisis management, and community engagement to secure public-private investment, economic development, and public benefit for the city. Why am I seeking the city manager position? The answer lies in my deep connection and commitment to this remarkable city. For over 26 years, my parents have called Doral home. Through them and my 5 years of work at the city of Doral, I developed immense respect, affection, and admiration for Doral's vibrant, diverse, and hardworking community, its elected leadership, and its dedicated city employees. I want to return to Doral to use my executive level leadership experience, institutional knowledge, and understanding of the city's unique opportunities to guide Doral towards its next phase of growth and innovation. My approach will be to prioritize implementing the city's strategic objectives in a fiscally responsible manner, with a continued focus on the excellence that defines this extraordinary city. Thank you for the opportunity to share my vision with you today and for considering me as your next city manager. It would be an honor to work with all of you to contribute to Doral's bright and prosperous future.
Thank you, Ms. Sardinas. We'll go ahead and start with Councilwoman Cabral.
Good morning, Ms. Sardinas.
Good
How are you?
morning, Councilwoman.
Nice seeing you.
Nice to see
I met
you.
you when I came on board, and before that, when you were the assistant of our mayor. At that time, that was the councilwoman of the city.
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
know that we interact in a few things. As you mentioned, that you have already experienced, working here and also being related with the city through the years that your parents have been living here. I just have two questions. One of them is consider the recent turnover of the city manager position. What strategies would you implement to ensure leadership stability and improve staff morale within our city administration?
That's a great question. Councilwoman, I think, or Mayor and Council, I think, yes, absolutely. There's been turnover. And one of the main priorities that I think need to be addressed right now is to complete the team. There are vital positions that are vacant right now that need to be filled. I think the most important thing in managing people is making sure that they're heard, is talking to everyone, seeing what their goals are, where their challenges are, directors, what they're hoping to see and do in their departments, and also to find a good way to be able to support them. It's important that they report up, but that they're supported down. So my goal is to establish that culture here. It's not that it hasn't existed before. I think it has, going all the way back to when I was here 10 years ago. But I do believe that that is the way to do it better and to create stability, because if we're going to attract talent that will want to come here, to work here, and to create here, and to do innovative things here, we need to promote that stability.
Okay, thank you. And this will be my final question. I also wanted to say that you were one of my picks. So I just have two people that I consider that I wanted to hear from them and see what is their thoughts and what is it that they're wishing to bring to the city. My second question is, if faced with disagreement between council members in the city, and policy directions, how would you navigate those conflicts within maintaining neutrality and advancing the best interests of the city?
Another great question. Mayor and Council, I haven't really seen many municipal boards that agree on everything. It's difficult to find. I am no stranger to controversy. When I worked here and in my present position, I think that the role of the manager, again, is to work with each and every council member to hear what their priorities are, what it is that they want to do. I think in the end, everybody's goal is to do and work towards what is best for the city. I do believe that everybody works out of that goal. That they may not agree on how to do it, that's something else, but I do believe everybody works out of that goal. It is the goal that I have, and I think it is the goal of all elected officials. I think I would listen to each one of you. I think I would, and I'm ready to follow direction. Your direction as a council is what I will follow. And I will come here to make sure that I am open and ready to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez.
Thank
I'm
you,
done with my
Council.
questions.
Councilwoman Reynoso, you have the floor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Councilwoman.
Thank you for joining us this morning and for taking the time to interview with us.
Thank you for hearing me.
First question. From what I understand, none of the applicants currently reside in the city of Doral. How do you plan to connect with our community, immerse yourself in our culture, and understand the needs and expectations of our residents?
Great question. As I stated in my message, I have a deep connection to this community. My parents have called Doral home for 26 years. I worked at the city of Doral for 5 years. I have deep connections and relationships throughout the city. And I attend community meetings here. I go to HOA meetings at my parents' development. I I have maintained throughout the years that connection, because I formed friendships here with members of the community that I treasure and that I still keep to this day. I believe that the city, in its strategic plan, talks a lot about community outreach and talks a lot about doing surveys, which are great, and holding meetings. I think it is incredibly important to do that, and it's incredibly important to connect with that community. I will continue to do that. I plan to, as much as I can, have an open door policy and make myself available to residents. I plan to go to the community meetings. I served as a liaison to 2 boards at my present position, where I had residents voice very strong opinions, because they have, and it's beautiful to see that people want to be involved in local government. It is a wonderful thing. So I plan to continue to do that. When I was here, we used to go to HOA meetings once every so often and go around all the developments, and that was an incredible place to get feedback about what we could be doing better.
Thank you for your answer. My second question. You bring valuable experience from the city you've worked in. How do you intend to apply that knowledge to serve Doral effectively and help make it the leading city in all of Miami-Dade County?
Well, I will tell you that my current experience, I think, prepares me in many ways to do that. Doral is, I always tell people, an economic engine in this city, in this county, and I do have extensive experience. I think it is right now at a crossroads. I think one of the needs that the city has right now is to find alternative sources of revenue, so that it is not so dependent on tax revenue. Having the lowest millage rate in Miami-Dade County is a wonderful thing, and I think the residents are happy that that's the case. But I think that if we are going to go forward as an excellent city and continue to have and to provide excellent municipal services and continue to grow, we need to be able to do other things. Your strategic plan calls for public-private partnerships, which is what I manage in my current job. It calls for finding affordable land. Now, that's a challenge here and in my present job, because, as we all know, post the COVID pandemic, prices have soared for land. But I think the city has a lot of opportunity right now to be able to do that. You need to look at your impact fee schedule. You need to look at grants. You need to look at alternative sources of income, and to have recurrent revenue that is not based only on tax revenue. So I'm looking forward to be able to do that, and to find also the right talent to help us in that endeavor.
Thank you. My final question. What are your priorities and plan for your first 100 days as city manager of Doral?
Okay, well, like I said before, the question that Councilwoman Cabral asked, I think the most important thing right now is to go and hear the directors, and to complete the team. The team, solidify that team to be able to work together, but also to hear goals, challenges, priorities within departments. It's important to be able to support them. And that is by far the most important thing that I will do, because I think it's important for us to understand where we are in order to be able to move forward.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilwoman Reynoso. We'll move on to Vice Mayor Porras. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Ms. Sardinhas. How are
Good
you?
morning, Vice
Good to
Mayor.
see
Nice to see you.
Likewise. I know you've answered a lot of these questions, so feel free to be brief with the ones that I have. Why should we select you to be our next city manager?
I think my experience with Doral is unique. I think the reason why I am a good candidate for this position is because I have institutional knowledge of Doral, because I understand the community, because I've been around here for so long. I think that I have unique experience that I've acquired the last 5.5 years that comes at the right time, which is why I say that this is the time and we are at a crossroads, right? And we need to look for these alternative sources of income, that we need to do things. I think that is the best answer that I can give you, because I have a connection, because I understand what's happening here.
Thank you. How will you keep elected officials informed?
I find that so we all know that we have agenda reviews with elected officials prior to council meetings. And that's obviously a great moment to be able to discuss issues and priorities. But I think that I would also like to be able to have additional time with each of you, at least once more every month, to be able to actually address what your offices are working on and how I can support that. Because I think the manager's office here does a fantastic job at doing that. And I think that maintaining that relationship and making sure that we can go through whatever everybody is working on and what priorities, and being able to then inform you, what are we working on, what are our priorities, what are we moving on in the different departments. It gives you information and gives you options, and it allows me to get your feedback on where we're going.
Perfect, thank you. And what is your management style?
Well, I think I mentioned in the other question, I believe a lot in reporting up and then supporting down. I want to support the employees.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
now have the
Mayor.
floor.
Good
Councilman.
morning,
Good
Ms.
morning.
Sardinhas.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you, sir.
What do you see as the biggest challenge or challenges for our city looking into the next 4 years, for example?
Well, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself. The biggest challenges I see is promoting stability. It's a very important part of what we need in order to be able for the administration of the city to function properly. I think creating the team, finding alternative sources of income, and then making sure that people feel that their needs are being addressed, that public safety is being addressed, that they have recreational spaces where they could go with families, that those are completed, maintained well, and that we provide that for the community. People are looking for quality of life, that economic development is working, that the city is thriving. But one subject matter that I haven't talked about, which I'm very pleased because I've reviewed the latest budget and also the strategic priorities, and I've seen, is the fiscal responsibility side. Using what we have right now. The city's in an excellent financial position. The city's thriving. There's no reason not to know that the economy is doing well and Doral is doing well. And I think we need to continue to provide that for our businesses, for our city, and address those needs as well.
Thank you. Speaking about the budget, what will be your philosophy in developing a budget, for example?
Well, I think as everybody knows, you start the budget process by meeting with each department and seeing what their priorities are. And then you have to prioritize, because if there's one thing I've learned through the last 10 years is that you can't do everything all at once. And that you have to plan, you have to be wise with what you do. You have to plan for good and for bad, right? You have to keep adequate reserves, which the city has incredibly robust reserves. Your financial position is great. You've just received a AAA bond rating, which is a fantastic thing to have achieved, and for the first time in the city's history. So we're in an excellent financial position, and we need to choose wisely how to use that and how to leverage that in order to be able to create, like I said, these recurring sources of revenue that we need.
Thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Sardinez, you're currently employed.
Yes, ma'am.
So one of the things I'm looking at in all these resumes, and I think it's been a common trend in what we've discussed, with your interview, is stability. Councilman Cabral had the question. Stability is super important because I think it's what will allow us to achieve our goals long-term over the next many years and in a very crucial time for their city. And something that stood out to me about your resume is that you've never been less than 5 years in a position. You're currently at your position now, it's been for 5 years. You were at the city of Doral for 5 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And even before that, your previous employment, that was 7 years.
Yes.
And before that was 8 years.
Yes.
And so I think that trend in someone's experience is extremely valuable. Can you speak to that a little bit on maintaining a position for as long as you have and what that brings to your role?
Well, ma'am, Mayor, I think that it's important to understand that it takes someone time when they get somewhere new to take it all in. Obviously, that process for me, I feel, would be a lot quicker here because of the knowledge I have about the city. But I was told by an HR director once that when someone starts new for the first 6 months, people are not, people are kind of weary of that person because they think the person may not work out or may leave. And I didn't understand that that was an actual statistic. It is important to stay somewhere long enough to develop relationships, understand the culture, be able to make those changes. So yes, I have tried to stay at the positions that I've held for at least 5 years, because I think it's important to be able to develop and to have that stability that comes with also building the relationships within the organization, and for people to be able to trust you, also to depend on you and to do the job that you need to do.
Thank you, Ms. Sardinez. My questions were all answered. We'd like to hear your 2-minute closing remarks, if you would.
Well, I think I've said a lot, and I've answered a lot. I'm honored that you're considering me. I think coming back to Doral would be wonderful, because I think that I bring with me, again, a deep connection to this community and a desire to actually work with everyone here to push Doral forward to its next phase, as I said in my opening statement. I think that the Doral employees are an excellent team of people. The ones that are here, and I'm looking forward to trying to work to complete that team and to be able to push the city to its next phase.
Thank you, Ms. Sardinez.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Next, we have Mr. Michael Sibilia. Hello, sir.
Morning.
Welcome. Mr. Sevilla, you will have 2 minutes to do opening remarks, and then it'll be followed by questions by each council member. Each council member is allowed to ask 3 questions.
Okay.
We've tried to keep the questions the same for every candidate, okay? And we'll start with Councilman Cabral right after your 2-minute opening statement.
All right.
Whenever you're ready.
Esteemed honorable council members, esteemed citizens of Doral, thank you for having me here today to present my pitch. My name is Michael Giovanni Sibilia. I have a bachelor's degree in economics, finance, minor in computer information science. I have a master's degree in business administration. I am Six Sigma certified in Black Belt. That means we do lean process improvements. I have over 20-year experience in financial operations, business operations, P&L analysis, business development, market study, and talent leadership. I'm fluent in 4 different languages: English, French, Spanish, and Italian. I lived here as well as in Europe. 50% of my time has been in the United States, 50% has been in Europe, Italy, England, and Spain. I've been living in Florida for the last 7 years now, specifically Miramar. And I'm here to answer your questions. Thank you for having me again today.
Thank you very much. Councilman Cabral, you have the floor.
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Sevilla. How are you?
I'm
This
doing
morning? Good?
quite well, Mrs. Cabral. How are you?
Good, thank you. So I just have 2 questions. My first question is, considering the recent turnover in our city manager position, what strategies would you implement to ensure leadership, stability, and improve staff morale within the city administration?
First thing I would do is get to understand who the key employees are within the business administration departments. Who are the key stakeholders? Who are the head department leads? Try to understand how many employees they have that they're managing, and try to understand what are the gaps that they're missing to make sure that they get the objectives done. I have an open door policy. That means that anyone and at any time can come into my office and sit down and we can strategize and make sure that we're meeting employee objectives, whether it's hiring enough staff to meet the required objective, which is the city's council's vision, or laying off when necessary due to performance reasons. To make sure you have a high morale, I believe in open communication and making sure that we meet our employee obligations and needs.
Thank you. And my second and last question is, if faced with disagreement between council members on policy direction, how would you navigate those conflicts within maintaining a neutrality and advancing the best interests of the city?
First thing I would do is identify what the bottlenecks are. Why is there a conflict and why is it we can't move forward? So whether it's via the council members or whether it's a budget issue, whether it's a staffing issue, whether it's a resource issue, understand what the bottlenecks is and try to identify this immediately to change, edit, delete, or replace to make sure we have minimal impact on our projects.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councilwoman Reynoso, you have the floor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming to interview with us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. My first question. From what I understand, none of the applicants currently reside in the city of Doral. How do you plan to connect with our community, immerse yourself in our culture, and understand the needs and expectations of our residents?
First thing I would do is an assessment and team building. An assessment that, again, that means identifying the gap, identifying where we have the missing resources, and make sure we have the proper resources necessary to move the city forward. Team building meetings, I would participate in city council meetings. I would participate in public events, private events, meet with citizens, businesses, the key stakeholders of the city to understand their concerns and their priorities.
Thank you. My second question. You bring valuable experiences from the cities you've worked in. How do you intend to apply that knowledge to serve Doral effectively and help make it the leading city in Miami-Dade County?
That's a good question. First thing I would do is understand what the key vision of the city council members are. Then I would sit down with each department head and understand what their objectives are and make sure that whether or not it aligns with your vision and objectives for the city. And what I would do is take that vision and transform it into actionable goals and programs and lead my staff and make sure that your vision and objectives are met. When I say your, I'm speaking about the council.
Thank you. Give me a second. Okay. Last question. What are your priorities and plan for your first 100 days as city manager of Doral?
Good question. I have a 30, 60, 90-day plan. So the first 30 days would be an assessment and evaluation of where the city currently is compared to budget, compared to necessities, compared to needs. That would be my first 30 days. Obviously, networking with the city council members as well as the citizens of Doral. Next 60 days would be strategy alignment and actionable plans. So once you do the networking, you realize what the goals are. How do you strategically align those goals to actionable programs? And the next 90 days would be implementation and vision strengthening.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Vice Mayor Porras has the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Sevilla. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, Mrs. Porras. How are you?
Thank you. Good. Just very briefly, why should we select you to be our next city manager?
Well, for one thing, I don't live in Doral. I come here with an unbiased view, bringing over 20 years of experience, mainly in operational and financial management. I believe I have transferable skills from the private sector to the public industry or the public sector. I question everything not to be difficult, but to make sure that the process is correct, to make sure that the process works for the visions that you set forth and for the city as well.
Thank you. And how will you keep the elected officials informed?
Periodic communication, whether it's bi-weekly, weekly, monthly. I would submit reports to you on how the city is operating optimally and efficiently, answer questions you may have and see how I can interpret that and make to actionable programs, relay concerns that that the employees or the citizens may have and relay that. So at the end of the day, have open and transparent communication with the city council members.
Thank you. And lastly, what is your management style?
It's called laissez-faire. I don't micromanage. I believe that if you hire people, you have to be able to believe in them, that they're able to make certain key decisions to move the city forward. And it's the same approach I have with my direct staff. If I hire people, I have to be able to trust them that they have sound judgments to make certain decisions in order to move their departments forward.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Councilman Pinero, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Mr. Sevilla.
Good morning, Mr. Pinero.
There you go. You got it.
I got it?
Yes. Based on certainly your background, how do you approach budgeting and financial management in a city
How do I
like
approach?
Budgeting and financial management in a city like Doral?
Generally speaking, budget is the same everywhere else, whether you're working in the private sector or in the public sector. What I do is you set clear objectives for your departments you're managing. In this case, it would be all the departments that comes under you within the city of Doral. Next step, you would have to make sure that they align with the visions of the city council members. Next step I would do is look at historical data or historical trends, past budgets, past actuals, how government spending was done prior years prior to the current year in question. Then I would look for trends and areas for improvement. Third thing I would do is get the key stakeholders involved to make sure that they buy into the budget that I'm proposing to them. Fourth, I would project my revenue and expenses. 5, identify what my fixed and variable costs are. 6, make sure I get everybody to sign off on the proposed budget. 7, edit any budget that needs to be done within our discussion timeframe. And am I on 7? And 8, implement, question, learn, and relay the information that we have learned from budget implementing.
Thank you. And my next question, based on what you know about Doral, is what do you see as the biggest challenges for the city in the coming years?
Doral has been doing quite well. It's been a thriving city. What we need to measure going forward is growth sustainability, public transportation. As the city grows, you've grown 77% in the last 5 years. It's phenomenal. You've become bigger than Coral Gables. But you're placed on top of, over the 34 municipalities, you're the top 10 to 15 in terms of income, median income, public transportation, public safety. So to answer your question, I would focus on growth sustainability, public transportation, economic development, environmental sustainability, and specifically, and very importantly, community engagement.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Pinero. Mr. Sevilla, I've been reviewing the resumes. For me right now, what's most important is stability, making sure that we create that so that everything can function moving forward for the next few years. And looking at your resume, I was unclear as to your experience in municipal government. Doesn't seem you have any directly. It's more contract work, is what you've done and what you're currently doing. Can you confirm that?
It's not contract where I'm a consultant
Consultant.
now, but I've mainly worked in the private sector, specifically in fintech, banking, insurance, and telecom industries.
Okay. So your last experience, work experience, it says it's 1 year, July 2023 to February 2024.
Fractional CEO as a consultant.
Which is your company, I'm assuming, as a consultant?
As a consultant, correct.
Right. And then prior to that, 3 years.
4 years at Finca Impact Finance.
2018 to December 22. September to December,
Right.
3.5 years. Okay. Can you speak a little bit to that? How, your overall experience?
It comes down to transferable skills. How well are you able to manage the vision that's set forth from the city council members, and how well you can implement that into actionable goals and programs for the city and the vision of the city council members. So I'm speaking more to transferable skills. So I'll be speaking about my management skills, my operational skills, my budget skills, my P&L skills, my business development skills, and my networking skills. Whether you're working in the public sector or private sector, there are standard ways in management that you can take from the banking field into the public sector.
Okay. Thank you very much. We take your closing statement now. 2 minutes.
Actually, I do have a question. Am I allowed to ask a question?
We're not going to answer any questions right now. This is an opportunity for us because we do have other candidates and we do need to make a decision today.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
I approach everything as a startup. I think big, start small, and once it makes sense on paper, I move fast to make sure we meet that deadline and budget. I question all processes, again, not to be difficult, but to ensure that it's working adequately and at the optimal and efficient level for both the city council members and the city itself. I welcome all ideas. I believe that we grow as a community. No one person is perfect. No one knows anything. So I appreciate any idea coming from everyone to make sure that we attain those goals. We go from point A to point B. I'm patient. I believe in helping others grow. I believe in developing people to become the best of themselves. And I always have this one thing: we either succeed together or we fail as one.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you,
Appreciate it.
honorable council members, and thank you, the citizens of Doral, for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have our final candidate, Tariq Rahmani, I think. Rahmani? Oh, okay. All right, so then that leaves us with just these three. Oh, okay. All right, does anybody need some time, or otherwise we can have a discussion, or I will take a motion for a candidate?
Mayor, I
Motion
have
for
some questions.
Sardinia?
Okay, hold on, I had Vice Mayor Porras had a question, and then we'll take.
I already made the motion.
Are we voting on a candidate and then the contract?
Yes, so we're gonna
Okay.
vote on a candidate, and then the contract will come back for ratification on the 15th.
Got it.
All right, Councilwoman Cabral, you had something?
I just said that I have a motion for Ms. Sardinia.
Okay, there's a motion for Ms. Sardinas on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second by Councilwoman Reynoso. All right, any questions? Can we get Ms. Sardinias back in the room, please? Okay, Ms. Sardinias, would you please approach the podium? Thank you. All right, before we take a vote, very quickly, and we will open up to discussion if there's any, I'd just like to ask Ms. Sardinias, so there's a motion on the floor for your nomination. We will be bringing back the contract for ratification at the first council meeting in January. I'd just like to ask, when would be your available start date?
Well, Mayor, I'd like to give 2 weeks' notice at my present position. So I would say January 13th.
Okay. I have no issues with that, if everybody's okay with it. Before we take a vote, I do just want to say, I think that there has been great candidates, and we've actually gone through this process now a couple of times this year. In looking at the role of city manager and what I'm currently looking for, there is determining factors for me. Stability, connection with Doral, institutional knowledge, professionalism, and experience. And I think Ms. Sardinias embodies all of these things. So I will be supportive of her nomination. I thank you all for going through this process, and I think that the next 4 years of Doral will be wonderful under our leadership and accompanied by a professional like Ms. Sardinias and the team that we will likely all build together. So with that, if nobody else has any comments? All right, Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Motion to approve the selection and employment agreement of Zeta Sardinias as city manager, made by Councilwoman Cabral, seconded by Councilwoman Reynoso. Councilwoman Cabral?
Yes.
Councilwoman Reynoso?
Yes.
Councilman Pinedo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Porras?
Yes.
Mayor Fraga?
Yes,
Motion passes.
congratulations, Ms. Sardinias, and we look forward to seeing you on January 13th.
Thank you,
Godspeed,
Mayor and
thank you.
Council.
Just one more thing, I think that our current city manager will be leaving on December 31st. We
Yes,
did
ma'am.
make a motion to make Mr. Frank Rios our interim during the time period that there will be a transition for Ms. Sardinias to start. However, I think it would be prudent for you to maybe try and meet with Mr. Valdez before he departs, even though he's going to be around, I'm sure. So if we could try and set that up at some point, I'm sure he'll be available.
Absolutely, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sardinias. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right. Actually, if you will stick around, we can take a picture for anybody who would like to join us at the end, Ms. Sardinias. Ms. Sardinias, stick around so we can take a picture at the end of our meeting. All right, we're going to move on. We have 2 more items on this agenda.
Yes. Discussion item B, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Doral, Florida, authorizing the city manager to utilize the NASPO 00318 cooperative purchasing agreement negotiated with Motorola Solutions by the state of Washington Department of Enterprise Service in the amount not to exceed $2 million for the purchase of 200-APX next single band portable radios, authorizing the city manager to expend funds from expense account number 001-6005-500-657 and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm going to turn this over to our Deputy City Manager real quick.
Good morning, everyone. So this is a pretty straightforward item. What it is that the department did receive a grant for $2 million to purchase technology. They have identified the need to purchase radios for the department. So what you have before you is the agreement, which was developed based off of a co-op of NASPO for the purchase of 200 handheld radios. If you have any questions on the item or how we've gone about it, the team is here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rios. Does anybody have any questions for the Deputy City Manager or for legal?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilman Pinedo, second by Councilwoman Cabral. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Motion to approve made by Councilman Pinedo, seconded by Councilwoman Cabral. Councilman Pinedo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cabral? Councilwoman Reynoso?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Porras?
Yes.
Mayor Fraga?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please like to swear in any witnesses?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we're going on into public hearings. If you please stand up, raise your hand, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm that the information I'm about to present shall be the truth and nothing but the truth. Thank you. I'll read the item into the record. First reading, item A, ordinance number 2025-04, Trump Endeavor 12 LLC Master Development Agreement, an ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of Doral, Florida, approving the Trump Endeavor 12 LLC Master Development Agreement in order to develop approximately 1,498 residential units and 141,694 of commercial units, in addition to the existing hotel and golf resort uses, providing for incorporation of recitals, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The item that you have before you is a master development agreement under Section 68-560 of the City of Doral Code of Ordinances. Requires that anytime that there is a rezoning, that the rezoning be accompanied by a master development agreement that lists, amongst other things, the project location, the zoning specs, description of the property, description of specs for roadways, among others. In this case, we have an item that was passed in first reading with the rezoning of this particular project. It is going to be coming back to you in January on that rezoning as well. So one of the things that is necessary for that item to come back is that this item is passed in first reading today. There could be changes that could be made between first and second, and those can be discussed when they come back in second reading. So my suggestion for the city today would be to pass this in first reading so that the item in its entirety can be brought back in January 15th meeting.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open up public comments real quick since it's a public hearing item. Public comments is now open. Anybody that would like to speak to this item alone, please approach the podium.
Richard Gluckstadt, 4768 Northwest 114th Avenue. Well, the crystal ball is always right. It's never let me down yet. So it's telling me that whatever Donnie wants, Donnie gets. But that's an exchange for selling your soul to the devil. Remember, you have to live with yourselves. You have to live with your conscience. You're the one that goes to bed at night saying, oh my God, who am I? Who am I really? You already know that I'm against this. I fought against this before. I even came up with a song. You remember my little song? Sardines in a can, sardinas en lata. Well, what started out as a nice, beautiful, relaxed, safe, tranquil, suburban community of Doral has turned into nothing but a dangerous, overpriced, concrete jungle full of people that don't even really live here most of the time. They're all transients. There's no community spirit here. I tried to start a community garden with Luigi, and it was like pulling teeth. Nobody would do anything together. Finally, they started it, and then I found out later it's dead. Nobody picked up the pieces. There's no community garden. The people there don't care about their community. Most of the people that live here are renters, and all this stuff that this guy's working to put up. By the way, he was the third choice to be the attorney for Trump because the first two wouldn't even work for him. So they had to get this guy from Hialeah to do the job. Probably did it for a cheap price anyway. That's why Trump took him.
Mr. Gladstone, let's stick to the point, please.
I can say what I want. That's freedom of speech. It's the truth. You know it's true. You know everything I say is true. I do not lie. I don't lie. You know it's true. I've never come up here and lied. Never. But all I see here in Doral, not just you guys, but everybody, they're the best liars in the world. Some of the best. I've met some of the best liars in the world. They lie to your face. They lie to your face. And you think they're telling you the truth. That's how good they are. That's what we have here. So go ahead, slam dunk it through, and see what happens to you later.
Thank you, Mr. Glutzak.
You're welcome.
Okay. We'll open up for discussion, or I need a motion. Any discussion, questions? Any questions on the item? I think the city attorney addressed the item. Mr. Lasarte, would you like to?
Hi, good morning, Mayor, council members. Felix Lasarte with the offices of Lasarte Law Firm. My address is 3250 Northeast First Avenue. The item that's before you is the master development agreement, which is part of the rezoning, which is going to be going forward in January. This is really a perfunctory matter. This item is going to be discussed in January in full detail with the plans, and you're going to have everything before you. So at that point, you could go ahead and approve up or down this development. This it requires 2 readings. We have the FAA approval, we have the MIA approval, and that's why this item is appearing before you now, so we can move forward with a complete item with all the approvals from all the agencies that have reviewed it, the county, the federal agencies, to have this item approved. I can tell you from my conversations with the president on Monday, there were 2 things that came to his mind. One was he said, hey, is this thing finally done? Are we done with the rezoning? And the other one was the issue of the incinerator. So these are 2 issues that are very big for the Trump organization. This item is important to us, and we believe that it's going to be a great thing for the city, and we hope that we have your support. Thank you.
I have a question. There is still one more reading for the rezoning.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
said this was, I believe, overseen, should have gone, it needs 2 readings as well, which should have been also at the same time as the rezoning,
That is correct, Madam Mayor.
Correct.
which is why it's before us today.
That is correct.
And timeline-wise, Mr. Lasarte, can you take us back to when the first approval for this project was and what approval that was for?
Yeah, originally our first approval was in the year 2023. And it was 2022, sorry, the year 2022, and it was for the land use. And since then, we came down from I believe we had an approval for almost 2,400 units. We came down 800 units to what we have today. And we went through a land use approval, and we finally got that. And then we got our first reading approved for the DMU, which is the downtown mixed use for zoning, which was at a reduced density. And now we're going for our second reading. That's where we're at.
So the only step left would be the second reading for this rezoning.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Any questions for the administration or for Mr. Lasarte?
Motion to approve?
Okay, I have a motion to approve by Vice Mayor Porras. I need a second. I need a second for the MDA for item 256003. Is there any more questions for the administration? I need a second, or the motion dies. Any questions?
I have a question, but yeah, I remember that it was just going through, but I know that at that time, our interim zoning director already answered one of those. I'm just thinking to see if there was something else that I had outstanding. But I remember you answered that question, and it was already the approval for the,
Yeah, we have all the heights, we have all the approvals from MIA, we have the approvals from the FAA, and, we've brought this, go ahead. I don't know if you wanted to speak on it.
Councilwoman Cabral, yes, Mr. Lasarte is correct. He provided us with the FAA approvals and the requisite approval from Miami-Dade Aviation Department just last week. So we're all good on all of the requisite approvals that are necessary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
I will second.
Second by Councilwoman Cabral.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? No other questions? All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2025-04 on first reading made by Vice Mayor Porras, seconded by Councilwoman Cabral. Vice Mayor Porras?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cabral?
Yes?
Councilman Pinedo?
No.
Councilwoman Reynoso?
Yes.
Mayor Fraga?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I need a motion to adjourn the meeting if anyone has any other comments or
Motion to
points of
adjourn?
personal privilege.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn by Vice Mayor Porras. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Happy New Year.